Hello. Today I'm going to be reviewing Shadow and Bone, a fantasy novel by Leigh Bardugo. Now, I'm going to give you a basic overview of the plot. So, in the kingdom of Ravka, there is what's called the Unsea. It's this big, black darkness that has split the country in two. It started out small and grew and grew and grew. It's this impenetrable darkness which is home to the Volcra, these really nasty creatures that fly around and kill people. Our main character is Elena Starkov. She's in the army. She's a cartographer. She makes maps. She's still kind of in training, and her unit has to cross the Unsea. They board this skiff that takes them across, and they get attacked by the Volcra. And Elena unknowingly manages to drive the Volcra away when it's discovered that she has magic abilities. She summons a bunch of light that drives all the Volcra away, and then she falls unconscious. Everyone takes notice of this because she's what's called a sun summoner, someone who can summon light, a lot of light, and this is basically the only weakness of the Volcra. It's one of the only ways to actually combat them and potentially to make it safe to go through the Unsea. So obviously everyone takes notice of this, including the Grisha, which are an order of magic wielders led by the Darkling. Elena gets taken by these Grisha to join their ranks and to their school, essentially. Basically they take her back to Hogwarts and she learns about all the magic and how to do it. She gets combat training as well, and she has to do lots of physical exercise that's really demanding as well. Everything's going alright, but she's sort of missing Mel because he's not come with her, and she doesn't really know what's going on. She writes to him occasionally, but he never writes back, so that's not great. There's also the Darkling, who I mentioned earlier. Elena and the Darkling sort of have an interesting relationship. He's not around very often, but occasionally he's there and they kind of talk a bit. They seem to sort of connect, and then at some point it sort of seems to go in a romantic direction, which seems to just come out of nowhere. Not that I'm an expert in romance, but anyway, eventually, after a bunch of training and all that, we hear news about what's called sorry, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, the Morozova herd. It's like a herd of these magic stag things. In particular, one stag, I think the main one, is meant to be like this very, very rare creature, and its antlers actually act as an amplifier to any magic abilities. The Darkling believes that by getting this amplifier and giving it to Elena, she'll be strong enough to fight off the Unsea. So they get some trackers to go track it down, and one of these trackers is Mal, because he's a tracker. Mal comes over and talks to Elena a bit. It's revealed he doesn't really, he never got any letters, and he gets a little bit jealous of the Darkling. Anyway, manages to kind of track the stag down. It takes him a while, but eventually he's getting really close. And then Bagra, she's this really, really old lady, and she's been helping teach Elena how to use her magic. She tells Elena that the Darkling is actually evil and wants to use her powers for evil. So then Elena runs away. So she runs away from the Grisha, and she's on her own for a little bit. her plan is to just sort of go to the unsea, cross through it, and then once she's on the other side in West Ravka, she can get on a boat and go to another country. It doesn't take long for her to run into some soldiers, and she gets chased around a bit. And after it looks like she's escaped, she turns around and there's one right there. But it's not just any soldier, it's Mal. He deserts from the army and helps her to escape. They continue walking around through the woods for a bit. They end up deciding to chase after the Morozova herd and that stag again, so that Elena can kill it, get the antlers as an amplifier so she can hopefully defeat the Darkling. Eventually they manage to find it. Right after Mal and Elena kiss, yeah, there's a bit of a romantic thing going on with them as well. Elena's about to kill it, but she can't bring herself to. She hesitates and she decides, I'm not going to kill it. And then, just at that moment, a Darkling and a bunch of other Grisha show up. And they end up killing the stag. They capture Mal and capture Elena as well. And they manage to forge this collar using the antlers from the stag, which they put around Elena. With this collar, the Darkling is able to command Elena to do things, and she can't refuse. All seems lost when the Darkling takes her to the unsea. They talk a little bit, and he reveals that he's going to kill Mal in the unsea. He's going to feed him to the Volcra. And Elena's not feeling very good after this. They get on a skiff, and they go through, and the Darkling demonstrates Elena's powers by using her light to drive away all the Volcra and scare them away. Then what he does is he reveals he is evil. He uses his magic to expand the unsea and make it swallow up a bunch of people in a town that's next to the unsea. He does this to prove a point to all the ambassadors who is also brought with him to witness this show of power. And the message is clear. There's going to be no more war, there's going to be peace. Peace on the Darkling's terms. Then he brings out Mal and throws him off to get killed by the Volcra. He commands Elena to retract her light so that the Volcra will kill him. And although initially she can't refuse his command, she manages to overcome his influence enough to break through, and she drives the Volcra away from him. After she asks the Grisha and soldiers that are there to help her defeat the Darkling, none of them step forward, so she decides to jump off the skiff and go after Mal, and she also cuts out most of the light so that the Volcra will go after everyone on the skiff. And then she uses her magic powers to destroy the skiff, basically stranding everyone on it there to the Volcra. She and Mal then run away. At the end of the book, they get on a boat and go somewhere else. So what did I like about this book? First of all, I really liked the world building and the setting. It was cool. It was pretty cool. It had a very... It was very Russian in its aesthetic, from the weather to the names and the architecture. It's very Russian. It also, unlike a lot of other fantasy things I've read, it features muskets. So it's kind of a bit beyond the Renaissance period, I guess. Probably about the Renaissance to Industrial era, somewhere around there, which is pretty cool. It's not something I've seen very often in fantasy. Usually it's medieval stuff, swords, shields, bows and arrows. There are bows in this, but there is also rifles as well. And I think they're like the primary weapons that most people use. As well as that, the Unsea was a really cool concept. When I was first beginning to read that book, like, it was hooking me with that thing. Like, it sounded really cool. And there's like a little map on in the book as well. And it was a really cool visual. Like, you have this like world map with or it's more of a country map. It just has the Ravka, and you have this like thing just cutting through the middle. It really did look like a tear that wasn't meant to be there, something that's otherworldly. It was pretty cool, and the mystery of what was in there was something that was hooking me at the start. However, then they go into the Unsea right at the beginning of the novel. I feel like it could have been built up a bit more. Like, it was literally the second chapter that they go in, which wasn't much time to build it up. Which, I mean, it's fine. You don't have to like leave it to the end. I just feel like it really hooked me with this mystery at the start, and then I saw what it was like, and then after that, it didn't. The book didn't really recapture that feeling, I guess, like where it was like really hooking me with this mystery. The middle of the book sort of, I feel like it dragged a bit. I feel like after the mystery and all that they build up right at the start, and then they introduce the magic school and all that. But then around the middle, like, I don't feel like there was too much going on. It was just Elena getting to know people, learning about things. Most of the characters, to me, they just felt a little flat, like the side characters and all that. Even the main character, I feel I didn't really care for her too much. See, all throughout the book, it didn't really feel like she was deciding, to make these big decisions. At the start, she doesn't have any idea that she's got magic, and then it just happens. She had no control over that. And then she gets taken to the school. She doesn't get to decide to do it, she just gets taken there. Even when she's there and stuff, like, there's nothing big for her to decide. Like, there is a moment where she has to make a really tough choice or anything. Towards the latter part of the story, we have Bagra telling Elena that the Darkling is evil. Now, I don't mind the Darkling being evil, but the way it's revealed was just sort of Like, first of all, Elena just leaves because she gets told to. I feel like it would have been more effective if Elena herself had discovered that the Darkling was up to no good. Like, maybe he tells her, not to research this certain thing, or not to look into something, or not to talk to the Apparat, who's a character that I feel got a bit underused. Maybe she gets specifically told not to do something and she decides to do it anyway. And she starts to learn a bit about the Darkling's, I guess, darker tendencies. Maybe she uncovers the truth that it was actually him who created the Unsea, rather than Bagra just telling her. I feel like this would have made it a bit more effective. And then maybe her deciding to leave could be something that she decides to do herself. I mean, once she leaves, she's not on her own for very long either. She's got a basic plan of what to do, but it's one that Bagra has given her. And then it's not long until Mal shows up, and then Mal's the one who's I guess, leading the way because he's the tracker, so he knows where to go. It just feels like Elena didn't really do a whole lot. She was mostly just getting taken to places by other people or following other people's instructions. You could say right at the end, she does break 3 of the Darkling's control, and then she and Mal run away, and she makes the decision to leave everyone there, which is true. This is true, but it is right at the end. Obviously, this is the first part in the series. Maybe she'll be a bit more active in the sequels, but as for this book, I don't think she was a very active character. Another important character is Mal. I've mentioned him a few times. Now, Mal and Elena are both orphans, and they grew up together. And Elena has feelings for this Mal character, but he hasn't seemed to have much interest in her over the years because he's usually with other women. So she's kind of like tried to push her feelings for him down a bit. After she leaves to go to the Grisha school, she's apart from Mal for quite a while. She spends a lot of time pining after him, like thinking about him. I get it, but it got a bit tiresome to read, I'll admit. I mean, at this point, I didn't really care too much about Mal. He was just kind of there. However, later on, he does come back and start helping her. And although initially he was a very boring character, he didn't talk much. He just kind of seemed like, I don't know, he was there. Elena and Mal end up taking a risk and going into a town while they're on the run or whatever. They get like robbed, they nearly get killed or turned in to the authorities or something, but then they manage to escape thanks to Elena's magic powers. Afterwards, Mal starts to, I guess, talk a bit more. He actually starts to feel a bit more like a character. It is quite late into the book when this is happening, but yeah, I did like Mal later on. Like once he started to actually, have stuff to do and say, then I was starting to like him. And I can kind of see Mal and Elena together. After a bit of an average middle, the book did start to win me over a bit towards the end. Overall, I did like the ending. The last few chapters were pretty good. It did a great job of making everything seem really bad, that things weren't going to work out. And even at the end, like, I was fairly certain that Elena would break free of the Darkling's control, and I was fairly certain that they wouldn't kill off Mal. Yes, I was right to think that they wouldn't go through with it, but it did keep me guessing just a little bit, which I think is a good thing. Overall, although I had a lot of negative things to say about the book in this review, I did enjoy it. Obviously, there are a lot of areas where it could have improved, as I've talked about, but overall, I did enjoy it. I think it was reasonably good, but definitely not one of my favourites. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider leaving a like or a comment or subscribing. And if you want to see me continue this series, please let me know. I probably will at some point, but I'm not in any particular rush, so we'll see how long it takes. I've got a lot of other stuff that I want to review in the meantime. Anyway, see ya! They're kind of like, I guess they're kind of like siblings, not in the biological sense, but no, they're not siblings. They're kind of like really good friends that are totally not siblings in any way. Let's get that straight. They're not siblings. They're just really good friends who grew up together.